Good morning, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to the Church of Doom. Happy Monday. Hope you all are starting your week out nicely. I am starting my week out in what I can only describe as RPG. What's the word? Well, what a weird way to start this. I can't even think of the word I want to use to describe this. I am I am overly optimistic. How's that? I am coming into this week looking for a thing to be excited about in the hobby, because in our last stream I had talked about how, or one of our more recent streams, I'd said like there's just not a lot of people or a lot of channels or a lot of voices out there in the D&D sphere that feel like excited, that feel pumped about what's going on in the hobby, that have like things that they're excited to share or talk about. Esper the Bard is a channel that I like on YouTube. He does a good job. I feel like he never does drama videos, almost never does drama videos. And I just get the sense when he releases a video, like he really cares about it, and he's just having fun with it. And I'm like, that's cool. And I left our stream and like, you know what? I'm gonna like find something to be excited about. And literally last night, Aaron and I, Mother Doom, we were on the couch just watching. What were we watching? Oh, we were watching Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, because we do live here in Utah, so we were binging some reality TV. But I saw this headline. And I thought, oh, actually, you know what? Here, let me show you what I'm even talking about. I saw this headline that Critical Role is doing a new mini, I think it's like an 8-part series. Yeah, 8-part series using their new Daggerheart rules. And it's called The Age of Umbra. And I thought, you know what? I haven't watched a Critical Role campaign in a long time. I dropped off right near the end of campaign 2. Watched maybe 10 episodes of the newest campaign. Oh my gosh, excuse me, in total, and just haven't, I don't know, I just never really came back. But then I saw this, I've seen the art, and I've been hearing pretty good things about the new Daggerheart system. Like Runehammer has got an early copy in his store, and he's been talking a lot this past week of like basically hyping it up because he seems genuinely impressed by it. I'm like, you know what, okay, I'll bite, I'll get hyped about something. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about this new campaign. We're going to read through sort of the synopsis together. It hasn't launched yet, obviously. It doesn't start until May 29th. Technically, I think there's even an earlier episode this week. It's like the session 0. But I wanted to just talk about it. Make some expectations. Reminisce on what, like, I'm sure for a lot of us, like, at some point, you were really into Critical Role. Let's talk about what was so cool about it back then, why things are a little different now. Then also I wanted to I've pulled up a couple different links of, like, what people have been saying on Reddit, and that I wanted to scroll through. I've like looked at the first couple comments of some of these and then thought, you know what, hold on, I'm going to wait till we're on stream. So we're going to be looking at a lot of this together for the first time, but I figured we would then, after we've sort of seen public perception of what's going on, we would actually check out the Daggerheart launch, look at some, like the Daggerheart Reddit, and just get a sense of the game and see if it's something that maybe we'd be interested in trying. And also, just as an aside here before we jump into this and I see who's hanging out with me in chat, I was thinking it would be cool to do a like watch party type thing. I don't know how that would even happen on a stream. Like I can't imagine I can find a way to like play their video and we watch it together on my stream. But even if it was just like Friday morning after their newest episode plays, we all come together on stream and we talk about it. That sounds really fun to me. Like, it seems like a thing that is new and exciting in the hobby, with it being Daggerheart and a new campaign, and then a thing that we can all sort of come and be excited about together, instead of just living in our own separate little RPG campaign worlds, which is fine. Like, plenty of that going on, but something that we could all do together, I think would be fun. So let me know in the chat if you'd be interested in doing that. But speaking of chat, let's say hello to our folks before we jump into this first little article, right? What's up, Doman? Hello, brother. Hello. Colin Lee, good to see you. Yeah, I'm glad you could catch me live. M55 on Tuesday, good morning. One of our members, another one of our members, Kevin K. I'm really looking forward to it. I've got my core book arriving today. Oh, sweet. Very cool. Yeah, I'm thinking I'll run down to my FLGS and snag a copy. If anything, even if it's a game that I don't run regularly, it feels like one that I've got to have on my shelf. And the thing that I've been most interested about that I'll be honest, I really have not watched hardly any videos talking about the system. I know that there are cards involved, and I think you use the cards to build your character, but there are still character sheets. I think they represent like your abilities or like items and things. I don't know. Whatever the cards are, I'm interested. That seems kind of cool. And then I saw something that it's a 2d20 system, I think, instead of one, which my like stick in the mud kind of like, man, I don't know if I like that when it comes to role-playing games. I like the d20 and I like to roll one of them. And I like things are like you roll 2d10 to determine the successes or failures or like a D100 percentile in Call of Cthulhu. I'm like, man, I don't like that. I like my D20. So that's where I get lame. But there's a lot of things about it that have looked pretty interesting. But with that said, and Doman, Colin, 35 on Tuesday, Kevin, thanks for jumping into the chat. Why don't we take a look at Critical Role's announcement of the Age of Umbra Daggerheart campaign starting May 29th. The thing that hooked me was the art right away, which when I first saw it, and I, like, Age of Umbra, like, Umbra just sounded like the name of some god or an epic deity, which is part of the campaign pitch, but when I saw the name and looked at this artwork, I almost thought that, like, that thing that they're on, it, like, looks like a god. Like, this looked like the thing that was, like, walking across the realm, or like, I don't know, it just hooked me. I'm like, that thing looks weird, really, really weird. And how it has like a beard, but then it has like a mask covering its face, and this halo is coming up out of its mouth. I just was hooked just looking at that. And then I saw there was some, where did I see this? There was something that was advertising Daggerheart, or the Session 0 for this new campaign. And it showed all the minis that they were going to be using. Because Session 0, which I think goes up this Wednesday, is when the character, or this Thursday, I guess, is when the cast is going to make all of their characters. And these little figures, like especially that one with the wing near the top. Can I zoom in a little bit better? Not really. Yeah, not at all. Anyways, the one with the wings and stuff, they sort of look like the characters that were being prepped in Session 0. So that was already cool. I'm like, oh, dang, like this is a weird looking cast. And then you've got them standing on some big giant dead statue, I'm guessing. I can't imagine this is like a real creature, but I don't know. It was just already a fun thing that I was wondering about in the world building, making predictions of like, does this world have literally like big giant avatar like beings wandering through it, or is it like a ruined statue? Either way, it looked really, really sick. But let's zoom in. Let's get rid of some of these fucking ads. Get out of here. Let's take a look at this. All right, so The Age of Umbra, an 8-part Daggerheart miniseries, is coming from Critical Role. Announced today, Age of Umbra is a new actual play series featuring Matthew Mercer, woohoo, as game master, and co-founders Ashley Johnson, Laura Bailey, Liam O'Brien, Marisha Ray, Sam Riegel, Taliesin Jaffe, and Travis Willingham. That's all of them, right? Is that yeah, there's nobody missing. Sweet. As players. The new miniseries will take up the bulk of the summer months, providing more of a break to the core cast ahead of an assumed fourth full-length D&D campaign. Notice that here they say that fourth campaign will be D&D, not Daggerheart. That's interesting. I bring it up because I saw a comment. We'll get to one of the first comments I saw on this post, or maybe it was the Reddit forum, that sort of pointed out what system they're going to use in the fourth campaign, but getting ahead of myself. Daggerheart is a new TTRPG developed by Critical Role's Darrington Press. Although the base game is intended to be a high fantasy RPG, the game includes several campaign frames that add additional rules for specific types of stories. Age of Umbra was developed by Mercer and draws inspiration from games like Dark Souls, Tainted Grail, and Kingdom Death Monster. I've never played Kingdom Death Monster. I've never played Tainted Grail. Oh my god, Tainted Grail. And I have watched a million lore videos about Dark Souls, but I've hardly ever actually played it myself. But the vibe of Dark Souls, you guys know me. You know that totally fits my vibe. So I'm already into it, and I really like whatever this is it's talking about. That the game includes campaign frames that add additional rules for specific types of stories. Does anybody know what like other frames there are? Have they talked about that in much detail anywhere? I'd be really interested to know what those are. I would guess, I think I've seen like mention of a fear mechanic. You have to roll like a fear save or something to be able to do your, I don't know. That's, I just saw Fear Save mentioned, and I'm guessing that's one of the campaign frames, like if, and maybe it's even going to be used in the Age of Umbra in like a grimdark sort of setting, that if you want to play in a grimdark world, you have the sanity saves or the fear saves, sort of like Call of Cthulhu. If you were going to do a game more like Fae themed, gosh, what would a campaign frame be? I have no idea. It's a cool. I'm really excited to learn more about whatever that is. What's up, Samael? Good to see you. What did I miss? Not much. We are literally just barely diving into our article read and starting to explore this new campaign that they've announced. But yeah, I know I gotta play Dark Souls only. I did start. I'm getting off on a tangent already. I started Bloodborne, made it to the first group, the big mob of commoners who've been like mutated into beast people or whatever. They're marching down that big, long road. I've like made it past them once, died to the next big dude who's on the other side of that door, and I've just never come back. It took so long. Oh, they have outlined all of the frames, Kevin says. Okay, well, maybe we'll have to try and look that up later, because that sounds very cool. All right, let's keep reading, though. The mini-series will air on Beacon, Twitch, and YouTube, where I think we'll do our watch party, with episodes airing every Thursday. The first episode debuts on May 29th, with Session 0 airing on various Critical Role platforms on May 22nd. Ooh, I hope the Session 0 is on YouTube, where the way they say that, Session 0 airing on various Critical Role platforms. But yeah, because that's perfect. Thursday nights, because I run campaigns on Thursday nights. So how would I watch the episode and then be up for stream the next day to talk about it? We'll figure it out. I have no idea. But cool. Yep. And then here's the full description. This is what the actual campaign is going to be. Age of Umbra is an eight-part Daggerheart miniseries from Critical Role of... Oh my gosh, let me start that over. Age of Umbra is an 8-part Daggerheart miniseries from Critical Role of dark survival fantasy debuting May 29th on Beacon, Twitch, and YouTube. Set in the Halcyon domain, a world abandoned by gods and consumed by darkness. The series begins by following 5 people from the isolated community of Desperate Lock, that's a cool name, as they fight to protect their own in the face of rising horrors. The Halcyon domain is a lethal, foreboding land where the souls of the dead are cursed to return as twisted, nightmarish forms. A dark, ethereal mass known as the Umbra roams and holds these fiendish monstrosities, further corrupting anything it touches. Sacred pyres keep the corruption at bay, and small communities endure through cooperation. Out in the beyond, whispers speak of ancient secrets and powers, wonders of a lost age, ready for discovery to those brave enough or foolish enough to go seek them. Game Master Matthew Mercer leads fellow Critical Role grounders Ashley Johnson, Nora Bailey, Liam O'Brien, Marisha Ray, Sam Riegel, Taliesin Jaffe, and Travis Willingham in a high-stakes actual play exploring hope, sacrifice, and survival in a world where death is on... Whoops. We're opening Taliesin Jaffe's link here. Okay. Interesting. A dark, ethereal mass known as the Umbra roams and holds these fiendish monstrosities, further corrupting anything it touches. See, that's what had me thinking, like, is that Umbra? But it would be so weird if it was Umbra and these characters are walking on his head. So I wonder what Umbra is. Anybody got predictions? That's sort of what I wanted to also do today, was just share our guesses for what some of these things were. While you guys are thinking about that, my favorite takeaway from all of this was this sacred pyres keep the corruption at bay. Now, when I first read this, I thought that meant like what they called small communities were pyres, which is really cool to me. Like they're almost like stations, like pyre. I'm going sci-fi, but like pyre 1287 or pyre 36K9. Like there are these different points on this like dead moon, and the Umbra is some sort of like alien being from the dark side of the moon. Okay, totally, that's a cool idea, but not at all obviously what they're going to be doing. But the idea that these communities are called pyres was really fun to me. But I'm wondering like what the pyres are. Are they literally like giant beacons, like giant bonfires or holy flames? Maybe. But what would be another cool spin they could do on the pyre? It keeps this corruption at bay. And pyres are things you burn. Like you put things on the pyre. If they're really wanting to lean into this grim, dark vibe that they're sort of pitching here, I wonder if like the pyres be interesting if they required human sacrifice. willing souls had to go burn themselves at the pyre. Oh, here's just a random idea. So it says that souls of the dead are cursed to return as twisted nightmarish forms. What if souls who die or burn themselves on the pyre avoid that fate, and in so doing, by like sacrificing themselves, they also save everybody else by keeping the Umbra at bay? When their soul is burned upon the pyre, it sends out this holy light that sort of make like kind of the way that when the sun rises, it sends out this wave of energy that keeps the Umbra back. That would be kind of cool. That's that's a prediction, more of just what I think would be fun for them to do with this theme. But what's everybody else saying? Samuel says the lore. Oh, he's talking about Dark Souls. The lore of Dark Souls it's a trap for the lore of Dark Souls. It's a trap for catch the food. People miss it's a game entirely built around the gameplay. Whoa, Samuel, sorry. Don't know what you're saying there, my guy. Kevin K, though, said Game Informer had a pre-release exclusive on Age of Umbra, including the actual images from it. What? Okay. Well, hold on. Let me see if I can pull that up. Kevin K, thank you. Give me a sec. Game Informant, Age of Umbra. I think I found their interview. Oh shit, dude. Oh my god, I'm just getting bombarded with internet ads. Okay. Yeah, Kevin, good man. Good man. Ignore this ad for whatever those horrible video games are. Exclusive, diving deep into Critical Role's Daggerheart. So we've got some extra cool little pictures going on down here. Okay. We're going to come back to this in a second. We're going to dive into this deep dive. Let's throw that up next in the queue up at the top of my tabs. But coming back to this. Sorry. Let me finish what people were saying in chat. Samuel said, I've never got into Critical Role and discovered only after watching Vox Machina, which I find just okay. So I don't know what their style is or stuff or what. Wait, when was this last part? What clothes came up with? I don't know what you mean by that. But you only, I didn't even finish Critical Role Campaign 1, which, if I remember correctly, I think that campaign had already like started as a Pathfinder campaign, and then they switched over to D&D and sort of did a sort of not a restart of the campaign, but like, session 0 or session 1, and like picked it up when they were already higher level. I got into it in campaign 2 and met that cast and Ford and Jester and Caleb. Some of my like favorite characters were all from that campaign, and some of the I remember Critical Role 2 holds a very special place in my heart because it was at a time when I was first trying to like get into D&D and RPG and be a voice and have this be my income and my job. And I was working part-time at Costco. During Christmas time, they would have us stand out in a trailer in the parking lot and sell Christmas trees. And because it was so cold, I could wear a beanie, which meant I could hide a little AirPod up under my beanie, and I would listen to Critical Role Campaign 2 while I did that. And it was awesome. It definitely got me through a lot of those awful, terrible, cold days. And I just have a very fond memory of it, which is part of why I'm wanting to come back to Critical Role for this campaign. I'm like, I want to be eager for the next episode about something. I want to be invested in something that a bunch of the other people in my hobby are like really into. For a little while, I feel like I've been sort of not literally a stick in the mud and not literally a hater, but just kind of like, campaign 3 wasn't really my thing, so I'm just gonna like not watch anything that they do. But now it's been so long since I enjoyed listening to their campaign, or like Dungeons and Daddies, their first campaign. I didn't finish it, but I really, really was digging it. Not Another D&D Podcast, their first campaign I loved, but all of those were a while ago, so I want something fresh and new. Anyways, let's go down and see what some of these comments were, because there was one that stood out that was interesting to me. So someone says, I'm looking forward to the new mini-series. 8-part, okay, let's see. Elvish Lore says 8 parts is fine, and they haven't yet announced what system they're using for their next big thing, but I'm a bit surprised if that's the showcase campaign for the heavily promoted Daggerheart system. Maybe they want to see the viewership numbers and sales numbers if they step away from 5e for his fantasy campaign first before they commit to Daggerheart for something long form. It vaguely, yeah, this was the comment I was thinking of. It vaguely feels like a vote of low confidence in their own RPG. Do you agree with Elvish Lore's statement? They're saying, since they're just playing Daggerheart in this Age of Umbra 8-part series, like, why wouldn't they just lean into that entirely for their next campaign? It's like, are they leaving the door open to be like, yeah, we've got Age of Umbra, Daggerheart, play this, but D&D is still like the main system for us? I don't know. If I were them, if I were Critical Role, like they already launched Candela Obscura, and obviously that wasn't their dominant system, and they only did miniseries with that, and I wouldn't consider it a failure, although I do see a lot of books at my game store for that. I don't know how well that one sold, to be completely honest. But I also would be a little surprised if this new rule system comes out for Daggerheart and they immediately jump into this huge, massive campaign set in... Here's the thought I'm having. I would be way more interested in seeing multiple mini campaigns from Critical Role using their Daggerheart system set in multiple of these little different campaign settings they've designed than I would be in watching another 100 or 200 episode campaign set in one of their settings with one cast of characters. That's just me right now. I am more interested in like shorter length campaigns. Like I've got a few campaigns running right now that are my Tuesday, Thursday groups that are both coming up on session 20, and I'm like, I don't know if I necessarily see either of these campaigns going past session 30 or so. Like I kind of want, and 30 sessions is a long time still, but I would love to see a shift in the general hobby of like, when someone says I'm going to play a campaign, that doesn't immediately mean I'm playing something that's going to last 2 years. It could mean something like just two or 3 months. I think that'd be really cool. What do you guys think? Kenneth says he's feeling a little indifferent about it. Yep. Oh, what's this from Colin? He said, Umbra means shadow in Latin. It's used in a lot of other fantasy settings with different meanings. Umbra also sounds like umbrella, and with the setting, it reminds me of Death Stranding. So this darkness could be a natural obstacle, like a storm or zombies. Ooh, interesting, Colin. That's an interesting thought. Maybe. Doman asked, did you watch Dungeons of Drakkenheim? Monty is a really good DM. Is that from Dungeon Dudes? Because I haven't. I haven't watched anything from them. Kevin said, I agree. It's likely a trial, but I don't think it's a vote of low confidence. The RPG community can be a bit fickle, so abandoning 5e is a big decision. Yeah, I think they'd be crazy to drop D&D and just go all in on Daggerheart. I think that would be pretty wild, because if it doesn't work, like, I don't think a lot of your viewers are going to be happy when you're like dragging them along through this campaign, sort of forcing your system down their throat, only to then go back to D&D if you realize like, oh, this isn't as popular as we thought it would be. And I'll also add in that I think with all of the hate that Wizards of the Coast gets online and all of the hate that people love to throw at them and at D&D, I see it going in one of two ways. Either there's this lull point, and then when we come back up out of it and people get, things are cyclical, when D&D becomes popular again, everybody will flock to 5e. Or we are in the midst of a low point where people are splintering off and finding these other live plays, these other systems, these other creators, and it's just taking a little while for there to be enough confidence for them to become more mainstream. Like Matt Colville's, what's Matt Colville's system called? Ironsword? No, that's the solo rule set. What the hell is his Blood and Steel? Whatever it is, whatever Matt Colville's system is, like when that drops, this is how out of the loop I am on his stuff. Like when that drops, are there going to be live plays for it? I hope so, and I hope people go watch them. Like Shadow Dark is a system that is not D&D 5e, and it's very, very popular. I would love to see a live play using the Shadow Dark rules become a little more popular. I just think people are, sort of to Kevin's point, they're fickle and they're slow to, I don't know if trust is the right word. Like, the buy-in is just low right now. Like, I don't think people have enough enthusiasm or energy to really be willing to buy into a live play that isn't, I guess, Critical Role. Like, I don't know what other ones are out there that are really popular right now. I guess you've got Dimension 20 and obviously them, but like, I know D&D has like their own official live play that is, I guess it's using like the cast from Baldur's Gate, but I see them put out shorts on Instagram and they have like, they don't get a lot of likes and they don't seem to get a lot of views. And maybe that's just because they're edited really boring. Not that I'm one to critique editing, because I don't do it hardly at all. But it seems like there's not a lot of enthusiasm behind D&D stuff, and I'm not getting the sense that there's a lot of enthusiasm anywhere else in the hobby. Does that? I hope that summarizes my point well. That's really what it feels like. No one's excited about anything. Everybody just is either meh about things or just wants to shit on them. That's what it feels like. Okay. Oh, dang. Lots of messages coming through. Okay. Let's see. Samuel said, I'm inclined to agree with Elven Lord. I understand the wider market of 5e, but I still have pushed... Okay, Samuel was agreeing that Elven Lord thinks it's a vote of low confidence. Hey. I mean, maybe. I don't agree. I think they're off the mark. I think it makes sense to do some little... to trickle in your own system and then launch something big once people have bought in, but maybe. Marc says, when I start campaigns, I usually tell the players up front that the plan is for it to last roughly 40 sessions maximum. I guess I've always been hesitant to put a hard number to the session count, because then I feel this pressure of like, oh, all the pieces have to be put in place for a finale on session 40. And so in my head, I'm like, well, if I don't put a number to when the session will, or when the campaign will end, I can just work. We can have it end when it feels the most natural and the most climactic. But I think what also is easy to fall into as a trap when you don't have a session count in mind is things just get dragged out. Because you don't have to... It's like, what's that law? Where it's like the amount of work you have will expand to the amount of time you have available to do the work, right? So if you have one task to do and you've got all day to do it, that one task will take you all day. But if you have to get it done in an hour, you can get it done in the hour. That's sort of, I guess, what it feels like with campaigns. If you have no idea how long it's going to last, and you just got the one campaign and you can run it as long as you want, well, it'll just keep dragging out forever. Maybe that's sort of the vibe. Let's see, what else is going on? Hey, what's up, Kelvy? I don't know if I've seen that profile before. Dimension 20, Glass Cannon Network. Yeah, Glass Cannon Network, are they the same people that do No. Don't they do Pathfinder? Isn't that kind of what got them big? Are they like there's like 3 brothers and a dad. Isn't that Glass Cannon Network, or am I thinking of someone else? Doman said, give Drakenheim a shot. I couldn't watch any of the Critical Role campaigns. Too long and very slow paced. Maybe I didn't watch enough, but talking to a Shadow Baker and fighting rugs in the first 20... Oh, that's what happens in the first 20 minutes of Drakenheim? I guess I have to give it a shot. Maybe I do. At least the first episode, right? But to your point that Critical Role's a very slow and long-paced, yeah. I think it's the combat, no surprise. Whoa, big revelation there, right? The combats are slow, and that's what eats into things. But I feel like when I look back on Critical Role and I think about the things that I enjoyed watching the most, what I enjoyed listening into it the most about was like, it was never the combats. It was the role play between the characters. And I think that's the case for most people. And I think that's why so many people, when they come to play D&D, they have this expectation that they sort of put on themselves of like, I have to have this super realized, fleshed out character that can bounce off and improv with the other characters really well. And we have these really strong connections and we tell these like beautiful narratives and these stories together that are all intertwined. I think that's like a Critical Role effect. And there was a definite you'd be like invested in that. I'd be having a lot of fun watching these cast members play these awesome characters, throwing out these really like interesting or dramatic dialogue moments, and then they'd get into combat, and because there's 6 of them, and because, they get pretty high in level, and Matt likes to throw, like, interesting combats at them that have multiple enemies or, like, all kinds of crazy stuff going on, like, they just do drag on for so long. So long. And it's those were definitely when I could get the most bored. So, I share that opinion with you. Let's see. Mark Clark says the big thing about 5e live plays is that people know how to play 5e because it's comfortable and they understand the system. It's like watching football, then seeing some new sport you're unfamiliar with. That is a very interesting point, Mark. I'm going to play devil's advocate. I'm going to push back just a little bit because I thought my assumption has always been the majority of people who've gotten into D&D in the past several years got into it because of Critical Role and didn't necessarily know a lot about D&D. They started watching something like Critical Role or Dimension 20, then decided they wanted to play it. So I don't know if the fact that it was 5e is what makes it the most comfortable listening program or whatever for the newer or the average RPG player. Maybe, but I also would say 5e is a system where, like, the mechanics honestly don't, like, if you are a roleplay heavy group like Critical Role tends to be, the rules, like, almost never really come up. You're making some skill checks every once in a while, and maybe you're using an item, but it's not like 5e has really robust mechanics and rules that get used a lot outside of combat. So for outside of combat, when you're listening to a Critical Role stream, you're not really listening to a 5e deep dive or like something that really puts the mechanics on display. If anything, I think you're just listening to 6 good storytellers have really interesting conversations and dialogue with each other. And I still think that's what hooked most people. Kevin K having a reunion with Marc. Kevin and Marc played in the campaign together before Kevin's job switched it up on him. He had to leave, and his character tragically sacrificed himself to save the party. Doman said 20 sessions is not to my liking. Dimension 20 and Drakkenheim are far better. 20 sessions. So Doman, you're saying you want something way longer than 20 sessions, or are you saying 20 sessions is too long? Because doesn't Dimension 20, aren't their campaigns like super short, or am I just making that up? Kelby said, yeah, Glass Cannon Network does a lot of Pathfinder, but a tons of side stuff as well. You're thinking of Adventure Zone. That is what I'm thinking of with the sons and the dad. They cracked me up. Samael said, Father Doom, you preceded me. Wizard of the Coast earns a lot of hate, especially from the DMs, who are the ones that decide what to play. Sticking to your own system preclude large audience, but can serve a niche of hardcore fans. Example could be the DDC. What's DDC? I have no idea what DDC is. Or for video games like Titanfall 2, which is a dedicated fan base. Instead, they'll go for the volatile mainstream surface level players. Oh, and then Samuel finishes by saying, I'm expecting an initial boom followed by a slow, silent decline fading into obscurity when the new big thing comes out. Bro, Samuel, so edgy, so dark. Pessimistic, that's the word for it. Maybe. I hope not. I would love for there to be the same level of enthusiasm there is for Shadowdark, for Daggerheart, Morkborg has been out forever, but, like, I still think Morkborg's freaking awesome. I don't see any reason why we can't be just as excited about that now. Like, if anything, there could be a little renaissance for things like that. So I don't know. If I were a betting man, I would not put my money on everything's going to fall into the shadows and D&D will just stay on top as the unrivaled king. I seriously doubt that. I think that I think it will be a long time until D&D can just, like, hold the belt triumphantly and with pride. Something from Kevin here. I thought the Daggerheart Critical Role miniseries was more enjoyable to watch than their 5e campaign personally. Did they already do a Daggerheart Critical Role miniseries? Is that how out of the loop I am? I come in here, I'm all excited, I'm like, guess what, guys? Critical Role's doing Age of Umbra, a miniseries. Like, guys, they already did a Daggerheart miniseries. If there's already one out there, then I guess I need to watch it. All right, a couple more messages, and then we'll keep going. We'll dig into a couple more comments on here, and then dive to the next link. Oh, Samuel, DCC Dungeon Crawl Classic. Ooh, I hated DCC. I hated Dungeon Crawl. Actually, you know what? I'll be right back. I'm going to show you the rule book for that. Hang on. Okay. Hold on, let me switch my camera. So this is Dungeon Crawl Classic. It's the art, awesome. The art that DCC uses is like the coolest thing about it for me, except there's like some weird comic booky art in here. But like now, cover looks really cool. It is so dense and so many tables. Nearly every other page is some giant D100 table. Oh, that was my bookmark for when I was trying to play a cleric. But it's just insanely dense with rules. It's not like this is all lore. This is like things you need to play the game. And I just found my dad tried to run a DCC campaign for our group, and what I found was I spent most of my time getting frustrated trying to find the correct table I needed to roll on, and everything took 10 times as long as it normally did. That we just hardly were playing ever. So it wasn't my vibe at all. Okay. Anything else in chat I want to address real quick? Okay, nope. Let's jump into it. Okay, let's just see if there were any other interesting comments on this thread before we move over to the next article. So this was Elvish Lore saying lack of confidence. Oh, okay, here's a response to Elvish Lore. Whizbang Dusty Boots says, I don't think the only choices are all in on Daggerheart or feed it to the landfill. Exactly. No one, even them, knows how important D&D is to their existing audience. This is a good way to test that question. If the numbers are comparable to other miniseries they've done, that might inform them of what system to use in Campaign 4. But even if the numbers aren't great, that doesn't mean that they'll be dropping Daggerheart. It might just mean more effort spent on marketing before they use it for a full-length campaign, including running more miniseries and maybe getting more actual playgroups to try it out. Yeah, which, like, they already are doing a big push for that. Start playing where I run my Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday groups. If you want to join one, open seats for my Sunday campaigns. They're making a big push right now. You've probably seen it, like some promoted posts on Instagram and stuff of like, hey, there's going to be a bunch of DMs ready to run you through a campaign of Daggerheart as soon as it launches on the 20th. So they're already doing this push to try and get it at people's tables, to get more people trying it out. Be very curious to see how the launch goes. Here is a response to Whizbang Dusty Boots, and I think it is interesting that they are starting with the dark fantasy game, given Daggerheart's more heroic default. I'm excited, though, both to see how the group does with something darker and how dark Daggerheart plays for them. That's an interesting point they make, too, because, yeah, if you look at Daggerheart, one of the things that initially kind of pushed me away from it was it looked and felt very cartoony. Like, even the rulebook has, I can zoom in, has this, like, frog person on it. And that is, I am aware that I think for the average D&D table, that's fun. But at my table, I'm like, it's just like kind of silly, goofy Looney Tunes style. Like, it just makes, I don't know. I just don't like it. I don't like goofy rabbit people or frog people running around with my humans and the one elf or dwarf in the party. It's just a little weird to me. And so I was like, man, is this system going to be like really anime feeling, really like just kind of goofy? But like this person points out, they're going into this like dark fantasy genre with this mini campaign. So maybe the system can hold up to that. That's interesting. Okay, a couple more. What Umbrin was saying, they ended campaign 3 back in February, right? So they aren't even set on a system for the next thing yet, and will probably not be doing much development on it until the end of the summer. After they have numbers for this, that's going to end up end in a gap between campaigns a lot longer than the usual 4 months or so. Well, maybe that's intentional. Maybe they need the extra time to decide if they're going to use Daggerheart or not. The soloist says they don't want to hurt their own game as it comes out. It would be bad marketing to announce a D&D campaign at this time. They have to juggle being a publisher and a D&D channel at the same time. I'm convinced the decision is already taken, and the D&D team is currently creating the next campaign for the fall. Oh, this person thinks that they are... Oh, interesting. So the soloist thinks they're probably already committed to D&D. And the D&D team is creating it for... When they say the D&D team is currently creating the next campaign, are they talking about Matt? I'm sure... I mean, he probably does have helpers, but could you imagine being a DM? A DM who has helpers, you could be like, I need this prepped. Get it done for me. And you send them the theme, and they write up your prep. That would be amazing. Okay, well, we've almost got to all the comments, but what's this last one? Have all the frameworks included in Daggerheart been revealed? I'm on the fence about the system, but intrigued. Hey, did I leave this comment? Because I also didn't know that these were released. And they have been. So we'll have to check those out. But let's move on to the next article. I saw someone talking about the frog person, though. Mark Clark agrees. I saw the frog person, and it was an immediate turnoff. Yeah, and that's just me. And I know there are other people out there who are in the same boat. But then there's people like Kelby who's like, I like the goofy guys, to each their own. Exactly. I'm not saying... Nobody here is saying you can't... Oh, by the way, I fucking hate Hero Wars, these ads over here on the other side of the campaign. It's one of my least favorite ones. They're so annoying. Anyways. Yeah, Kelby says he likes the goofy characters, to each their own. I know that those characters can be played well. But in my experience, I typically find that those types of characters have a little bit of a main character syndrome. Less so in the sense of like, my arc is the most important arc that has to happen. And more so in the sense of like, I'm the goofy frog guy, so every time I have a turn, I'm going to do something goofy to keep me in the goofy spotlight for the session. And it's hard to have serious moments or serious plot points develop when you've got a bunch of goofy characters. That's my main critique of them. Kevin said, I do wonder if Wizards of the Coast throws CR money to play 5e as it's big. No way. No way. I would be shocked if Wizards of the Coast paid Critical Role to play 5e. At least right now. Like, in the future, if they needed to do some sort of sponsorship deal, maybe. But I think Critical Role... Well, here's the thing. If Daggerheart does well, and Critical Role has a fan base, a real solid fan base around the system, and they start to transition away from 5e, then I could see Wizards of the Coast being like, oh, hey, we need you to come back and play 5e, play our newest module or whatever. Maybe then, but I doubt it. I could see Wizards of the Coast being like, I genuinely think the suits that they have could sit in a room and be like, who cares? We don't need them. What? We were doing Critical Role a favor by letting them play 5e. You know what? And besides, we've got our own streams. We're just going to double down on them. Why even bother with Critical Role, right? That would be my guess as to what they would do or what they would say in that situation. Marc says, I'm all in for people playing goofy characters, but the whole party in the campaign would need to be set up for something like that. Having a gritty, dark theme and one goofy character is eye roll. Oh, yeah. Ooh, interesting from Colin Lee. Says, I hate the game ads so... Oh, you're talking about the Hero Wars. I hate the game ads so much. I'm not interested. They force me to watch them. They want me to pay to not watch them and purposely suck just so I can prove I'm better than the people they're showing play it. Exactly. Interestingly, this one is just a still ad. Hasn't even moved. IQ... So this is a test, IQ 155. You only have 2 moves to get the sword. So if you pull the lava pin first, it's going to flow down and kill you, would be my guess. If you pull the water pin first, it's going to solidify into the lava, and then it won't be able to flow out of the mouth. If you pull the gold pin first, and the gold falls into the water, Then you pull the lava pin. See, it's stupid. It's like, I don't even know how they expect you to win this. But I guess that's why it's an IQ 155 game, right? I'm just too stupid. I only have an IQ of 154. I haven't quite reached that point. Yeah, who is Critical Role? That is the Wizards of the Coast executives. Exactly. Kelby asked, my big hang-up is, like, how can Critical Role expect me to put Daggerheart on a pedestal if they don't have enough confidence to make it their main game? Kelby, I'm going to be honest, that's, like, a dumb thing to say, though. It's like, if any time someone launched a new product or had a new idea, it had to be their number one new thing. And it had to be the main thing of the whole company. Like, that's insane. It's too risky to do that. You've got to build into things a little bit slower. Speaking of slow build-up, I said we were going to read this next article. We better get to it, right? Okay, exclusive. This is from Game Informer. Thanks for the share, Kevin K. Diving deep into Critical Role's Daggerheart. Let's take a read. After years of anticipation, Daggerheart is about to be released next week. The tabletop role-playing game comes to us from Darrington Press, the publisher arm of Critical Role, which many players may know from the team's wildly popular role-playing streaming shows. Ahead of the game's launch, we had the chance to put some questions to lead game designer Spencer Stark. He gave us a rundown on some of the core ideas that set Daggerheart apart from other RPGs like D&D, but also gave an early look at one of the campaign frames featured in the game, a dark and dangerous setting called Age of Umbra. Age of Umbra challenges players to send... Ooh, I like the way I said that. Umbra. Age of Umbra challenges players to send their characters into the Halcyon domain, where the dead come back in twisted forms, animated by a strange, roaming ethereal mask called the Umbra. Notably for video game players, Critical Role's Matthew Mercer wrote the campaign frame specifically citing From Software games like Dark Souls as an inspiration for the style of play. Mercer will be running an 8-part miniseries set in Age of Umbra with a Session 0 on May 22nd and the first full episode airing on May 29th. You can watch the show on Beacon, Twitch, and YouTube. Okay, I already knew all this. Check out our complete interview with Spencer Stark below, as well as extensive art galleries from the soon-to-release Daggerheart game. We also have 2 exclusive book spreads from the Age of Umbra section of Daggerheart, which you can read through by clicking in the gallery below and tapping the expand button in the upper right of the image. Okay, yeah, let's check that out first, shall we? I'm very interested to see this. Oh my gosh, can we zoom in? Okay, hold on, let me move myself so we can actually read this. I know it's tiny. That's what she said. Can I zoom in? I cannot zoom in, so you're going to just have to listen as I read it. Can I at least highlight so you know where I'm reading? Nope. Okay, well, starting at the top. The Age of Umbra. In a dying world immersed in relentless shadow and nightmarish monsters, small communities hold fast to the light, hoping those who endure can find a way to save this broken realm before all is lost to darkness. So that... Okay, well, yeah. Oh, interesting. So the statues of this big giant bridge... That looks like what the characters were standing on in the in this artwork. You can even see the bridge. The obviously, like, the things have been moved around for composition purposes, but that's the giant statue that the characters are standing on that is being shown off, flanking the ends of this bridge. Okay, so now we know it isn't one of the giant monster things. It is literally just a ruin. Complexity rating. 3 circles. Not sure what that means, but I'm sure after you read the book it'll make sense. All right, the pitch. Read this section to your players to introduce them to the campaign. A century has passed since the god king of Thaddeus betrayed the Pantheon, provoking divine punishment and abandonment by the gods that left the realm of the Halcyon domain shattered, desolate, and eternally cursed. Throughout the shadow-choked land of decaying fortresses and dreadful monstrosities, surviving communities cling to hope in the hope of lightless oblivion. In the Age of Umbra campaign, you'll play heroic survivors who protect their community from the terrors beyond their walls. Venture out into the unknown to hunt the nightmares that twist and grow with each fallen soul, seek answers to the curses that corrupt the world, and perhaps even discover a way to change its fate. The tone and feel is ancient, daunting, epic, grim, ominous, terrifying, and tragic. The themes are apocalypse, corruption, darkness versus light, hope, redemption, and survival. Touchstones are Dark Souls, Kingdom Death Monster, Berserk, The Seventh Seal, Blasphemous. Okay, I really like how they've done this with the touchstones. The tone and feel and the themes are cool, although tone and feel and themes seems a little similar to me, but the touchstone section they have where they reference directly other materials, other what's the word? You've got like a video game versus a movie versus mediums, other mediums that you can go to for reference. I think that's sick. 55 on Tuesday. Appreciate the $5 super chat. That is what she said. Yes, it was. I appreciate that, 55. Thank you very much for the super chat. Yeah, and if anybody else is enjoying the stream and wants to help me keep doing what I'm doing, right? Help me on this holy mission to indoctrinate folks into the RPG hobby. Super chat, membership, join the Patreon, which you can follow for free, by the way, and get my almost every morning of the week, weekdays blog posts. You can read those for free. Go check that out over there. But 55 on Tuesday, much love. Thank you. All right, let's read the overview for the Age of Umbra. If your group decides to play this campaign, give your players the following information before character creation. All right, let's get into the juicy stuff. This is going to be a minute while I read. The Age of Umbra is a dark and broken age within the realm known as the Halcyon Domain, which rots in the wake of its pantheon's abandonment. Kind of sounds like my campaign setting. Critical Role stole my ideas. Grandiose cities and awe-inspiring cathedrals to the veiled gods now crumble slowly into ruin. Fallen bastions of the prosperous epoch ruled by the guiding hand of god King Othedius. Othedius, chosen by the veiled gods as the bridge to divinity, conspired with his grand ordinance and Aetherlords to enact clandestine machinations that could shift the balance of Celestian power, enraging the Pantheon. His blasphemy was met with cataclysmic retribution. The gods rained destruction upon the land, ending the old world and forsaking... He even called it the old world. God damn it. Now I'm copying Critical Role, I guess. He was writing this way before I started mine. Fuck. The gods rained destruction upon the land, ending the old world and forsaking the surviving peoples of the Halcyon Domain to an existence of growing desolation. The veiled gods then abandoned this world in what is referred to as the apostasy, leaving... It is so weird reading this and being like, oh my god, this is just my campaign setting. The veiled gods then abandoned this world in what is referred to as the apostasy, leaving what remains to wither under ever-growing shadow. The clouded skies growing darker with each passing generation as they herald the world's slow death march into entropy and oblivion. That sounds very grimdarky. The cycle of the soul has been sundered, cursing all who live or ever will live with the soul blight, a mark upon every mortal ensuring that upon their death they will rise again as a corrupted revenant, bent on destroying everything they loved in their former life. If their risen body is destroyed, the marked soul withdraws into the dark, ethereal mass known as the Umbra, seeking others to haunt and corrupt. Let me read that again. If the risen body is destroyed, the marked soul withdraws into the dark, ethereal mass... Oh! Okay, interesting. So when you die, you become a monster, and when a monster dies, you become part of the Umbra. That's very interesting. It's now been nearly a century within the Age of Umbra, and those who remain rebuild what they can among the ruins of the old world. Referring to themselves as the Enduring, these scattered communities of survivors huddle within reinforced battlements where sacred pyres burn as a beacon of hope and safety. All Enduring are trained to survive and defend themselves in this bleak land from a young age, many honed into fierce warriors and aether weavers through hardship and necessity by the time they reach adulthood. Bands of hundreds brave the cracked and twisted landscape beyond their walls each day. Bands of hunters brave the cracked and twisted landscape beyond their walls each day to gather sustenance, recover materials, and connect or trade with other surviving settlements. Okay. Very interested in this, but I got to jump over in a chat because I just saw Christian Breffold said, I heard the sacred word super chat. I am compelled to super chat. My ritual worked. I spoke the incantation of Christian, and thus he appeared. Thanks, Christian. I appreciate that, brother. Yeah, that's super nice of you. I'm trying to think, what do we got going on this week? I know usually when I get a super chat like that, I like to share what it'll go towards. We did have, Aaron and I had our big, busy, long weekend. We had a wedding. We went and visited Aaron's dad, who bought a new house, so we were checking that out. We saw some friends on Friday for a dinner. Aaron actually started feeling a little sick yesterday with a bit of a cold, so we were kind of just trying to get caught up on some rest the other day. But we definitely have used some of your previous super chats, Christian, to get some drinks, have a nice dinner with friends, and all that good stuff. So much appreciated, Christian. That $50 will honestly probably just help with the grocery run this week. So I much appreciate that. Very, very much. Anyways, I just wanted to say thank you for that. Let's jump back into this here. It's okay, so it's been nearly a century. Oh, okay. However, many of the outside world's wandering beasts have mutated from the corruption of the Umbra. This transient storm of twisted souls merges with and contorts the creatures into nightmarish monsters that stalk, rage, and evolve with each newly fused specter. When these monstrosities slay those who confront the wilds, their victims' blighted souls join the horrors that claimed them. In the absence of the gods, dreams turn ominous and empty, and oracles imagine great alien minds glimpsing into this world, reaching beyond the cosmic veil left unguarded. Oh my gosh, this sounds very cool. It sounds very similar to the vibes I want in my campaign setting. Maybe I'll have to play a campaign in my version of the old world using their rule set. The Diaspora, is that how you say that? Diaspora of surviving communities hold against the doom through grit, ingenuity, and faith. Within the swampy floodplains of the mountain-crowned region known as the Idle Hollows, an emergent fort village called Okros has stood resilient against the surrounding swampland dangers for over 50 years. Its massive walls of melted shields and stone encircle the village and central sacred pyre, whose flames climb above the tallest ramparts, a burning symbol of strength and safety visible from across the Idle Hollows. That's very cool. A recent seismic event within the valley conjured a massive sinkhole referred to as the Shulk Chasm, uncovering an expanse of long-buried structures and vestiges from beyond the old world, or from before the old world. Concerned and curious about what boons or banes might await discovery within the subterranean catacomb, brave enduring slowly investigate the mysteries below, while scouts seek allies from erudite places such as the Silesians of Amber Reach. Interesting setting, interesting adventure hook. Nestled against the grief-cleft mountains, that buttress the eastern edge of the Idle Hollows, the text is so small. Let me try that again. Nestled against the grief-cleft mountains that buttress the eastern edge of the Idle Hollows, dividing it from the tainted jungles of Evidura, the glorious city of Amber Reach lays fallen and haunted in the wake of the apostasy. The once prosperous capital's expansive cityscape of overbearing gates, Gothic towers, and staggering fortresses lies damaged and derelict, with empty households now sheltering horrors and looters. Within the city's Ashel Quarter, the Silesian Athenaeum, a grand college and library repurposed into a stronghold, still holds against the dark. Here, hundreds of enduring work against the deadly spirits and ghastly killers that torment the city ruins, seeking to reclaim control of Amber Reach's streets. A rising faction of hedonic, ruthless scoundrels and raiders known as the Damask Queens expand their territory from the far side of the breeze-strewn Cinnabar Quarter, their crossings with the Silesians growing more violent with each encounter. Oh, cool. It's like a campaign setting within a campaign setting. That one has like Walking Dead vibes to me. These micro communities all living within a city and fighting. It's like gang wars, but there are monsters all over the place that are fighting them as they're having these gang wars. That's so cool. I'm pretty invested so far. Oh, Edward Boyett III became a member of the Missionaries. Thanks, brother. Appreciate that. Welcome to the RPG cult. If you go to the membership tab, there's a few posts. At least one of the most recent ones has a link that'll take you to the Dunomicon, which members of the missionary tier have access to. So you'll be able to go download some of my most recent stuff that I've published. So you can go check out my newer. I think the newer stuff that's in that link are some of the pages from this month's zine that is still a work in progress, but it's the one we've been brainstorming on stream, the Wretched Tropics. So go check that out. But I appreciate Edward. Thanks so much. All right. Oh, hey, Noble Knight. Good to see you in the chat. Good day, my lord. What are we doing today? We're talking about Critical Role's new Daggerheart system, their campaign, The Age of Umbra. Right now we're reading specifically about the Age of Umbra setting. We're on this last big paragraph here. As despondent as existence may seem in the Halcyon domain, within these communities of the enduring, hope continuously sparks a flame. Whispers speak of remnants of divine power lingering within lost shrines and holy sites that can rebuke the soul blight. Rumors spread between settlements of heroic figures, felling greater evils and reclaiming ancient relics for the might of the enduring. Spirited leaders and champions rouse their fellow enduring with promises of expanding their walls and avenging their fallen. Zealot factions fervently seek means to commune with the absent gods, forever searching for ways to repent for Athidian's crimes. Those who can access the Aetherweave see visions of distant sanctums and corrupted fanes, O uncorrupted fanes that cast aside the clouded skies to preserve light and life, or even redeem those touched by the soul blight. Hermetic societies claim to carry tomes and truths of God King Athenius and his great tragedy, along with prophecies that speak of a chance at salvation for the realm. The lands may be dark, but the points of light burn ever so bright. That read to me like, here's the Morkborg set. Here's a setting as dark as Morkborg, but there's a little bit of hope left. Whereas Morkborg is like, here's a setting that is super dark, and it's only going to get darker, and it's only going to get worse. So I like that, though, the way that Critical Role does it. I've heard some critiques of Morkborg, which is like, it's so dark, it's so apocalyptic that it's easier to tell the, like, comedic, like, your adventures are so tragic they become comedic. Like, the deaths and the violence is so over the top that it's funny, which can be fun for a one-shot, but I do agree that I'm like, ooh, Morkborg does seem a little tough to, like, run a campaign in when it's so nihilistic. I think that this is the approach you kind of do need to have. Have a super grim, dark setting, but your players need to have hope that they can succeed, which kind of goes against Grimdark. I've seen that in some comments of like, Grimdark is supposed to be a setting that's like void of all hope, and you know the characters are going to lose. And it's like, okay, sure, in narrative fiction and world building, yes, that makes sense for Grimdark, and it can be fun to read about. But as a player, I don't think Grimdark is very fun to play in. Would you have fun playing an RPG where you are like, well, maybe this is a loaded question because I'm sure you're going to be like, yeah, hell yeah, I would. Would you have fun playing a campaign where you are in the 40K universe and you're, like, maybe as a Space Marine, sure, but, like, what if you were just, like, a battalion of Imperial Guardsmen? Could you have fun in a campaign like that where you're like, we're supposed to be cannon fodder? Like, our own lieutenant might try and kill us. Doesn't sound like a fun campaign, but it does sound like a very fun one-shot or a mini campaign that's like 4 sessions or something. But other than that, if you want anything longer, I do think you need those tropes of cling to hope, cling to the light. I think it just makes it more fun to build a character and buy into the setting. Oh my god, how many pages? Okay, we've got a little more here that we can check out. Is this worth looking into? These are just the communities. I don't think we need to read, like, I'll come read this on my own time. I don't think you guys care to, like, read through all the communities in the Age of Umbra campaign setting. But the point being, it looks pretty sick. I dig it. I think that looks awesome. Hold on, is that... If I exit out of this, am I... Did I accidentally shift my Google screen? Oh, sorry, I'm seeing something on my back end that's looking wonky. Oh, no, maybe we're good. Whoa. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Anyways, so that's the Age of Umbra setting. It does read very Dark Souls-y. It reads very Morkborg-y, very you have been abandoned by the gods, but there's still hope that you can be saved, which it is fun that there are so many parallels from that fit my campaign setting that I'm working on right now. What that tells me, what that cues me into is like, oh, this is a vibe that has a bigger appeal. Like, more and more people, I think because of the popularity of things like Warhammer 40k and the Grimdark it brings, and Elden Ring and Dark Souls, like, lots and lots of people just want to play in settings like that, and don't necessarily want to play in the, like, Tolkien big high fantasy setting. I guess Tolkien isn't high. Well, it is high fantasy, but it's not like there are, like, flying cities all over the place, right? Colin Lee is saying the name Umbra makes sense now, and old Colin Lee had pointed out that Umbra is shadow in Latin. So gargoyles projecting from the gutter of a building, typically acting as a scout to carry water. Gargoyles projecting from the gutter of a building, typically acting as a spout to carry water clear of a wall. Maybe I missed something in what I read, but I do agree with that first part of your sentence, Colin, that Umbra, the name Umbra makes sense. Yeah, darkness, shadow, light is a prominent theme here. I think it's cool. Samuel says, I'm just lost myself. I'm more of a less is more guy. What you read seems to put too much meat on the fire. I haven't agreed with a lot of what you've said this stream, Samuel, but I do agree with that. You guys, like, you know how I write. We've brainstormed together, but, like, well, let's go back again. Where's my... Like when I brainstorm a little list of things or some ideas, it's like one page, or if we're looking at this page, it's one page of ideas, and I limit it to a D6 to a D12 list. And basically, because I'm neurotic, all of my writing is done that way now. All of it needs to fit to a page, and it needs to be a list format that is quick and easy to digest and remember. And I do agree that how this was written it's a lot. And sometimes it kind of feels like it's saying the same thing 3 different ways. But I think Matt Mercer and a lot of DMs will write like this. They really like to do the exposition or give you all as many details as they can in their descriptions. I'm prone to that. I am much more concise in my writing than I am in my descriptions when I'm playing a game. And honestly, you probably get that from the way that I stream. I can just start talking, and I'll just keep talking and talking and talking and talking. I'm a rambler. And so some of these bigger books, which I don't have a lot of right next to me, but yeah, the big core books that you're dropping $50 or so on, it's like, it's too much to digest a lot of the time, but it looks cool. It looks good on the shelf. Maybe that's why people buy it. It's not really meant to be a practical tool, I guess. I don't know. Noble Knight said the setting is too grim and dark. It becomes difficult to care about what you're doing if it doesn't matter anymore. Or anyway, then why the hell are we doing it? That's why you need help or some comedy in there. Yeah, and I think that they've struck the balance pretty nicely here. And just on the topic of when it becomes so dark there's no hope, and that's why Morkborg is good for one-shots, I think I would love to hear more from Morkborg as like a company. All I ever really hear from them is when they're launching like a new Kickstarter zine. But like I would love if they did like a weekly dungeon or a one-shot. I think Morkborg is a perfect system for one-shots. And if they just had a more regular distribution of adventures to play in their world, I think they could get more fans on board and more groups playing it. Christian says, I don't know, bro. I want to play an RPG as a Krieg. You do not want to be a member of the Krieg Corps, dude. Or maybe you do. Maybe you've got your shovel in one hand and you've got your note to your suicide note to be given to your family after you jump down into the trenches to meet your glorious end in the name of the Holy Emperor. Maybe. Samuel says the setting can be grim as you want. It's up to the players to bring the light or dwell and thrive in the darkness. That's true. That is true. 90% of a campaign's vibe is dependent upon character action. I agree with that. The DM can only do so much to get a tone across without just suffocating their players in it and like, you will live in a grim, dark world. I'm going to beat you over the head with it. Yeah, that can certainly start to happen. But anyways, let's keep reading. What do we think? Let's check out this interview a little bit. Game Informer. How is Daggerheart different from other role-playing games on the market? How is the feel of playing different from that of familiar games like D&D? Spencer Stark. Daggerheart is a heroic role-playing game designed from the ground up to be collaborative, narrative-forward experience that supports both heartfelt storytelling and cinematic combat. So if the reason you play is to tell an awesome story with your friends, Daggerheart is almost certainly for you. It's specifically designed to be light enough at level 1 that you can jump right into your first session without knowing much, but crunchy enough that as you level up through a campaign, there are plenty of interesting choices to make and new mechanics to learn. Okay? An answer that sounds good, but doesn't necessarily tell me anything. What can you tell us about the core dice mechanic of the Hope and Fear dice? Oh, this is what I was talking about where it's like 2d20. How does that system shape play? Was there a particular reason to focus on 12-sided dice? Oh, it's 12-sided, not even a d20. I like my d20s. The duality dice are one of my favorite features of the game. They really help to inject narrative into every roll. You choose one d12 to represent hope and the other to represent fear, and whenever you're making an action roll, you'll use both the total of the roll, including any modifiers, and whether the hope die or fear die rolled higher. This gives you results like success with fear or failure with hope, which will impact the consequences of the roll. It allows for there to be a spectrum of success and failure during play that encourages everyone to play and find out what happens next. The use of the D12 came about primarily because I adore D12s. I love their shape, and I also really like their balance of swinginess. They give more variation than a D6, but less than a D20. Additionally, two D12s rolled together creates a statistical curve that centers around 13, meaning the players know their dice are generally going to hit around that value. This makes even smaller modifiers really valuable. I could gush about dice mechanics for forever, but I will spare you from the pain. No, please don't. Tell us. I want to know more. I want to know more details. Because this did better than the previous answer. At least it told us some actual stuff. This gives you results like success with fear or failure with hope. So it sounds like what do they call, an oracle mechanic in lots of solo RPG systems where you're like, you pose the question and then you roll for yes and, yes but, no but. So I would love to, I wish he could give an example of what that looks like. I make a check and it's a success with fear. What exactly does that mean? Like, how is that different than I roll a d20 and the DC was 15, but I roll a 14? And it's like, well, it's close enough that you can succeed, but something bad happens. Like, is it that different from that? Or is it sort of just the same thing with different dice? That'd be my big question. The other question that's jumping to mind is, an Oracle system sounds really cool. I wonder how easy it is to use with multiple players. Like, does something like this, where every check has so many different ways that it can go based on how the dice roll, like, is it going to slow things down? I would be interesting about that too. Now, I'm not saying that I don't think this sounds fun and that's something I wouldn't try. I definitely would. I just would like to know a little bit more. Oh, we've got some art. Let's check it out. All right, I'm a pretty harsh art critic when it comes to my fantasy style art. So let's see what we got. Well, for starters, they do have animal ears, so there's some sort of like wild folk, I'm guessing, like a wildling, maybe, or some sort of, they're a lichen, I don't know. Interesting. You guys already know my opinion on animal folk. They're just not my thing, although I am more down with this sort of vibe, where it's like, magics have mutated you and given you some sort of animal-like feature, but you're not just like an animal person, like a wizard who's had a minor magical mutation and now they have whiskers. They're not a cat. They're a person with whiskers, or they're a person who has like cat ears or one cat eye. That's cool. That's fun. That's like tells me something about this world and tells me something about magic that I find very interesting. This must be obviously from a different setting. It's hard. I have to remember. Oh yeah, the Age of Umbra isn't the only setting. This whole rule system isn't just grimdark. Daggerheart is still the very like colorful, crazy fantasy that is pretty popular. Oh, I can tell my nose is running. Oh no, I'll have to blow it in a sec. Yeah, this is fine. The armor looks kind of cool. I like how he's got like different. Looks like frogs on like a lily pad on his arm. Oh my god. Bracer. He's got like a cool bracer with a frog on it. Like some different animal motifs. All kinds of weird, different looking instruments is kind of cool. This sort of stuff doesn't really happen in my RPG campaigns. I don't typically have like players on like a parade, but it's cool. This is, okay, I like this. This is what I wish... This is what I always like to see from my players. When I ask them, what does your magic look like? Anytime a character at my group says, I cast a spell, I guess I can't say never. I almost never let them get away with just, I cast Firebolt. Okay, I'm rolling my damage. It's like, whoa. You gotta tell me what that looks like, my guy. What does your wizard's version of Firebolt look like? And so this is cool, where it's like, when I cast my spells, my scroll book isn't even a book. It's like, it almost looks like some sort of big scroll canister on my back. And as I begin to recite these prayers or these incantations, the script starts flowing out of the scroll case and it swirls around me. It forms this like orb that I'm reading these texts from as they fly around me at these crazy speeds. And then poof, it casts the spell from this orb of runes that I've built around myself. That would be so sick as a player mechanic, or a flavorful thing. It's not a mechanic. I think this could inspire some players to do the same. Ooh, okay, very cool. I like the prosthetic is fun. What D&D character doesn't like to get an awesome prosthetic? They all do. I also like the little touch of there's like some plant life growing through the metal arm. This is clearly, to me, this reads as like a sign of, oh yeah, this sort of ignores the idea that druids don't use metal. This druid has a metal arm, maybe they're a ranger, but like a person out in nature, right? A person in nature who's got a metal arm. Clearly they've got some sort of metal sword at their side, metal tipped arrows. I think it's fun. We got our dwarf out in the tundra. This doesn't really do anything for me. This doesn't tell me anything kind of cool about the character, except that they've got these like all-terrain wheels. I guess that's cool. But yeah, this isn't really telling you. Are they outrunning an avalanche, I guess? If they're, for someone who is outrunning an avalanche, they look remarkably calm. There's not an ounce of fear in this person's body. More cat people, not my thing. But the fire is cool, how it's dancing all around them. I like that. It's just a fun action shot. I won't hate on the action shot. Another one that doesn't really do anything for me. A character portrait. The ear, I guess, is cool, but this doesn't tell me anything. And we're back to the beginning. Okay, so some cool art, but I would say that didn't impress me very much, to be completely honest. Sort of, like, none of these characters are doing anything epic. They're doing things. They're aiming an arrow. They're casually fleeing an avalanche. They're building up a spell. But I wish it had a little more movement to it. I wish it felt like these characters were doing something. That's what I really liked in the new Monster Manual book. So many of the monster illustrations show the monster doing a thing. And they said that in one of their interviews. They're like, we wanted this book to give DMs a better sense of how to run the monster. And I think by giving the art more life, it helps with that. So I think that's cool. And I would love to see more of that. What are we thinking so far? I'm a little behind on chat. Happy to see folks. Happy to see folks are still talking even when I'm rambling. Give it a quick scan. See if anything stands out to me that's interesting. Kevin K says, if you succeed with fear, you successfully picked the lock, but you made a bit too much noise and you hear something on the other side. So it is just like an oracle. Even if that's all it is, I think it's cool if there's a D&D or an RPG system that puts the oracle front and center. That isn't a solo system. That's cool. Edward Boyert says they're getting one of our newer members. Praise be. By the way, Edward, if you're new, that's the symbol of the church. 3 spires. This hand is the church itself, with the eye of Vecna, the third unblinking eye, at the doorway, the entrance to the church. And then Vecna has his 3 tenets for each of his 3 eyes, which are Inquisition, Immortality, and Inquisition, Immortality, and Introspection, looking inward upon oneself. So don't forget that. Anywho, they said, I'm getting Star Wars RPG vibes. I only played the Star Wars RPG, and there's like a couple, aren't there? But I played one back in college, so that was like 10 years ago. And they had a lot of different dice, like weird custom dice for their system that were fun in the moment, but were like hard to remember. Yeah, Marc, it's your edgy e-girl, cat girl, waifu. Exactly. Hi, waifu. Funny. Anything else here I want to jump on? No, I don't think so. Let's keep going. All right, let's keep going. Daggerheart also leverages physical dice as an aspect of play. Can you talk about how those factor in? Is the use of cards central and necessary to the experience, the way that minis might be in a tabletop skirmish game? Okay, well, first of all, minis aren't necessary, but they're fun. This was a question that I had asked and I want an answer to. Hopefully we learn something legit. The cards in Daggerheart designed as a shorthand way of building and operating your character. They make onboarding during a session 0 much easier. We really wanted an experience that got you out of the book and onto the page as fast as possible. So choosing your level options from cards and placing them in your loadout to make the process as streamlined and accessible as possible, as well as having rad art across everything in the game, was something we were really excited about. There are ways to play without the cards, using a loadout sheet instead, but we find the experience with the cards to be our favorite way to run the game. Okay. So it's sort of what I was expecting. The cards are a reflection of what your character has to work with off their sheet. Now, it says a loadout, so I'm not sure if loadout means it's just your gear, or does that include special abilities? I think if I remember correctly from some snippets I've seen of like them talking about the rules more, like doing some sample play, I think it also can include abilities, which I do like. I'm not sure how I feel about it being like, it's a thing you can do, but you don't have to do it because you could just do it all on your sheet. Like if you're going to use, this is an example where I would have a Samael opinion of like, if you're going to have cards, go all in on the cards. Like make them be the thing that's cool. I would have liked to have seen that. The thing about cards that makes me nervous as a DM, and it's like, oh God, my players now have to remember to bring all their cards too, and not lose any of them. That's probably just I'm just being nitpicky and looking for a thing to be like, well, what if I lose a card? My response would be like, well, don't fucking lose your cards then. Like, just keep track of them. Be an adult. So, I could see them being fun. I think they'll be cool. I hope the thing with inventory that sucks the most is things just sit in characters' inventory, especially on D&D Beyond, where it's a digital and you're not checking it as often as you are like a printout sheet. But like, hopefully it gets people actually using things. When you've got these 5 cards in front of you, and by the end of the session, you're probably going to want to use all 5 cards, right? You don't want to end a session with like, oh, I didn't spend this currency that I was given. I could see it being that sort of game incentive, which would be cool. Kevin says it does include things like your feats and abilities. Okay, cool. Marc says maybe making expansions with the cards would be a lot easier. Yeah, that's my thought too. If they went all in with the cards, then yeah, you could have expansion pack after expansion pack after expansion pack. And if they formatted the book correctly, like what if they wanted to do an expansion pack of cards, I guess what does that mean? Like if you're wanting to do a bunch of new subclass abilities, do you have a specific deck of cards for like ranger subclass abilities, or can these abilities and these cards be like they very interchangeable across all of the classes? I would want to know more about that too. How do you build your little mini deck? How much do you get to choose from? Kelby said, I think I'll be playing without the cards, but like maybe they'll be cool. We'll make it easier to onboard. Marc says, I just hope it's not going to turn into a deck building game where you use the cards like I attack with this, then discard the card. Interesting, Marc. I've actually been having this little thought in my head of like a deck building RPG would be pretty cool actually. Like I like the vibe of Magic the Gathering. I like the vibe of building a thematic deck and showing up to play with it, but I don't like Magic the Gathering. I like role-playing games. So if I could show up with a deck, and I don't know how, like, is it a deck of my character? Is the deck like the campaign? It's the adventure we're playing tonight, and I've kind of put the cards together to make it, which, shout out Sunrot. That was a Kickstarter campaign. I think it already wrapped up, but that is a, like, deck-based RPG system that I'm excited to try out. But I actually wouldn't mind a game that uses cards a lot. What I would be worried about in that, though, is like, well, now players are only doing what the card says they can do, and they're not thinking outside the box. But that problem already exists with the character sheet. I've had plenty of players that are like, the only action they ever take in their campaign is attack or a skill check that is on their list of proficient skill checks. They very rarely attempt anything outside that vein, and I'd like to see more of that. Colin talking about the Age of Umpah campaign. The gods are gone and only the anti-heroes left. Only the edgelords remain to save humanity. Oh boy, Samael coming in with another hater comment. Maybe, we'll see. He said, I'm going to be hated, but I know what they want to do. Oh boy, I know what they want to do with wheelchair characters, but they push to ridiculous extreme instead of justified, or I don't know, make it... Boo, Samael. Boo. Boo, bro. Who freaking cares that he's in a wheelchair? If that bothers you, like, I don't know, dude. Why? Like, why? What is there to be bothered about? What? I don't get it. Like, and like I was complaining that his face was not lining up. I think it's cool. You have a dwarf in this like fitted out wheelchair who's like going down the mountain, like outrunning an avalanche. That's cool, but it's like, can he look more like that's what he's doing? I don't really get your comments, Samael. I don't know why you have an issue with the wheelchair being weird. I think that's weird. Noble Knight says, imagine if it backfires and players are holding resources like health potions and can't spend it because I don't know when I'm good. Wait, imagine if it backfires and players are hoarding resources like health potions. See, but they already do that. Either they already hoard things or they just forget they have them. So I think the card solves both of those, because if you've got like 3 of your potions of healing cards, and you can see that you can hold all 3, and you don't have to like go into your inventory on D&D Beyond or whatever, check, you're like, oh well, I'll spend 1 because I still have 2. Like, I feel good about spending these. I want to use these because they're building up. I have more than I need right now. I think it would also solve that problem. Kelvis feels the same way about Magic. Vibes are good. Game is not for me. Yep. Oh, the Witcher board game is a deck builder pseudo RPG. I'm not a big board game guy. Although I do. I do have Escape the Dark Castle. I do have Escape the Dark Sector, which are card-based RPGs. You play out the encounters of escaping the Dark Sector or the Dark Castle by drawing from a deck of cards, which is pretty fun. I could see this being a fun game to play on stream. I could see us having a good time with that. Maybe that'll be a fun game. I enjoyed it too. It's not an RPG, but the game is all about, like, you have a bunch of different fantasy kingdoms, the elves, the skeletons, the dwarves, the halflings, the orcs, or whatever, and you're all like fighting over this little territory of maps. And kingdoms are constantly rising and falling and rising and falling. And the way that me and my friends played it is each turn, when my orcs attacked the elf kingdom, we would have to describe, well, why are the orcs attacking the elves? What caused this war? What's the lore of the world that's causing this? And so after a few rounds, we had this like really rich backstory for this world based off all these different cultures that we were all playing. It was really fun. I enjoyed it a lot. Let's see. Marc said that I stopped liking Magic the Gathering when it just became a money grab with releasing sets of various different IPs. Yeah, I just watched an interesting video about that too. Colin said, the connection I was making with Umbra and Gargoyles is that Gargoyles here serve as umbrellas, just like the citizens using the stone and statues as protection in the Umbra campaign. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah. The way they, like, funnel water out and stuff. That's cool. Anything else I want to touch on real quick before we keep reading? Kevin K saying, the cards help remind you to use your abilities. Oh, I'd like to use my Shadow Step ability. I get to XYZ rather than having it buried in a character sheet or just remembering it. Yeah, that's definitely a function it serves. Oh boy, Sam, I'm not even going to entertain your... It's just such a silly thing to complain about. It's just dumb. Welcome back, Kenneth. Noble Knight, I do like the settings of Magic the Gathering. I'm planning to read the Magic the Gathering DD book and see if I can get some ideas from the Guildmaster Guide to Ravnica. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there is that cool... Don't they have 2? No, Eberron is in Magic the Gathering. What am I thinking about? Yeah, they have that Wizarding School Magic the Gathering setting. I thought they had another. Weren't there 2 Magic the Gathering D&D campaign source books? I thought there were. Anyways, let's go to the next question. So that was our card question. What are some of the features that make character creation and development interesting in Daggerheart? As a design team, did you have particular goals you hoped to reach in terms of the way characters come together over the life of a game or a campaign? Experiences are something that really stand out to me as a particularly exciting component of Daggerheart. They are essentially narrative tags that you work with your GM to create about the kinds of experiences... They are essentially narrative tags that you work with your GM to create about the kinds of experiences you've had as a character already, and when you leverage that knowledge while performing an action, you can get a bonus to the roll. As talked about above, the card system also makes character creation fast, visual, and exciting. You get to combine certain domain decks together to form your character's loadout at each level. Additionally, the background and connection questions actively encourage a player to breathe life into their character, as well as providing the GM narrative fodder for how to make the character at their table the protagonist in the campaign. I don't know why, but that made almost no sense to me. Experiences. So you're... Well, what did I just do? Oh, I copied the link. Okay, tags are things about your character's backstory that you're like... So, like, it sounds like they're talking, like, literally a keyword tag. Like, well, I don't even know what a good example would be. Farmer? Would farmer be a tag that applies to your character? And then in any situation where something... This could be interesting if you had farmer as your tag, and then anytime you were making a check that used skills that a farmer would be good at, you get to apply your farmer tag bonus in addition to any of the other tags you might have. That could be interesting, as long as it wasn't like clunky or sort of slow to figure out. Doesn't really make a lot of sense just how he described it, at least to me. But I'm just the dumb streamer who's trying to read, entertain, and think at the same time. One of the significant challenges of tabletop role-playing for game makers and playgroups is the frequently dramatic difference in experience levels between long-term players and newcomers. I would hardly call that a significant challenge. I would say that's one of the best parts. For me, I love playing with new people because you get to mold them into your ideal D&D player, and you get to see their eyes go wide when they're like, oh my god, this is the best game ever. You're like, I know. So it's interesting it's posed as a challenge, but it's just my opinion. How does Daggerheart approach that dilemma, specifically around welcoming new players, while also including enough depth for experienced players? We've done our best to make the onboarding process for new players as streamlined as possible, while offering the opportunity to opt into more crunch as players level up in a campaign. We also, where possible, attempt to put the bulk of the crunch of the system into the choices players make in downtime, between sessions, or during level ups, as opposed to in the moment at the table to avoid stopping down play as much as we can. Ooh, okay. I don't know what that means. Obviously, I don't have the book, and it's a quick interview. They can't go into crazy amounts of detail, but... crunch being involved in downtime, between sessions, or during level ups. Hold on, let me think about that for a sec. Isn't that kind of the case for most systems already, though? I suppose Pathfinder is a crunchy system in the game, because you've got so many abilities with so many different tags and ways that they all interact. It's like insane. I tried running it. It was not my thing. But for most other games, and also, what do they mean by crunch? I guess they're meaning character creation mechanics. Is that just what crunch is? Like the different abilities you can give your character? So most of that comes up during downtime, between sessions, or during level up. So I can understand these two. Between sessions, you have to go read the rulebook and you have to add all these new things when you're doing a level up. But that happens anyways in every system, so I don't really know how theirs would be different. The downtime is what is standing out to me. How do you have crunch during downtime? What does that mean? I have no clue. What was Kevin saying here? Is this in reference to the tags? You are correct. For my character Red, he would have an experience from the gutter. So if something came up that could use that experience, I get a bonus. It's pretty subjective. Oh, but I love that. I love that. I think that is so cool. I would much rather have a sort of subjective... I would rather a character sheet almost be like, here's just some general information about the character, and then in the moment, as I'm describing what I want to do, me and my DM are like discussing like, oh yeah, you definitely would have experience doing this because of what we've talked about with your backstory. Here's your bonus you get for that. I think that sounds really fun and more narratively engaging than, well, these are the 3 exact things that I'm really good at because these are the 3 things I've circled in on my character sheet. And it just so happens that 1 or 2 of these would be things that a farmer would also be good at. I'm on board with that. I think that could be cool. Marc says, no idea what crunch means in this context. It was a term that was not defined earlier in the interview. Define your terms, sir, before you just go throwing them out there. Yeah, my guess is by crunch, they just purely mean character options. I think that's what it is. Let's keep going. Next question. For folks who may not be plugged into recent happenings with Critical Role, guilty. How will the launch of Daggerheart affect the streaming, shows, and other content that Critical Role produces? Short little answer here. We're launching Age of Umbra very soon. It's a series run by Matt Mercer, using the Age of Umbra campaign frame, a Dark Souls-like setting that is extra deadly, and much more to come. We're just getting started. Okay, we can't wait to see it. Ooh, more art. Cool. Today we're sharing more details about one of the campaign frames in Daggerheart. Would you describe what you mean by a campaign frame compared to a dedicated campaign setting? This was another one I'm very interested in hearing the answer to. A campaign frame is kind of a starter kit for running a campaign in Daggerheart. They're usually about 10 to 20 pages and focus on a specific subgenre or concept around which your campaign can be structured. They provide an overall narrative hook, some interesting lore you can incorporate into your campaign, a map of the region you can customize, a starting scenario to kick off your first session, and some mechanical additions or adjustments that impact the way the game runs. We're hoping campaign frames provide everything you need to jump in while not being so much they feel stifling to you and your table's creativity. Okay, that's really cool. It's really cool, but I have not seen these mechanical additions for the Age of Umbra setting. They weren't in, at least from what we saw when we were clicking up here. We had the overview, and then there were the communities, but those are the only two pages we've had access to. So I guess it's just on a page that they haven't shown us yet. But that's what I really want to see. I don't need 2 pages of lore, at least in the preview, of the communities. Show me the mechanics. What's going to actually be happening at my table. I would love to know more about that. But anyways, we got some more art. Let's see what we get here. So this is from Age of Umbra, I'm guessing. So some sort of creepy elf flesh golem. It's cool looking. Oh, whoa. That's sick. So how one arm, and then it's got a giant fist made from almost looks like torsos. It's like a much bigger arm. That's weird and sick. And it's got like a goat hoof leg. That thing's really cool. I dig that a lot. Cool. Dracula with a giant vampire mount. Nothing here that interests me quite as much as the previous one, but it still looks cool. That's sick. I don't know what it is. It's got like a weird Phantom of the Opera. Well, Phantom of the Opera's like a half mask. It's got some weird theater mask on it. Bunch of horns protruding out of it, and they sort of look like big boxing gloves. Like they look like padded fabric. I'm guessing they're supposed to be giant metal gauntlets or something, but it's cool. It's fun art. Ooh, what do we got here? I like the incense burners like held in the tips of her curled horns. That's cool. Bunch of little bones dangling from it. 8 arms. Almost like not Lolth. Although it could be a depiction of Lolth, I suppose. Like the threads could be webs and things, and the bones represent like the bodies that get tangled in her complex webs. I'm reaching. This obviously isn't Lolth, but it is 8 arms, and it is a woman, and there is thread. So maybe it is. What's up, Wadadoofum? You say, yeah, wait, which one? You saying this is just a regular person? I'm not sure. Oh, dang, that was it. Okay. Well, they are cool. This is definitely my most favorite, just purely for the one hand that is a bunch of arms. Ugh, so creepy. Really dig it. Really, really dig it. Samael says this, here we go. Samael, our resident hater. This Dark Soul thing bothers me. It's a punitive and deadly yet rewarding game. 5e, it's unfit to host such still without Major Jack. I know nothing on... Well, yeah, so it's not even... Bro, we're not even talking about 5e. This is a totally different system that I'm sure will be far deadlier than 5e is. And hey, we don't know. Maybe some of these mechanical additions that come with each of these settings, maybe Age of Umbra will have some that make it a deadlier setting. But Samuel, all I'm going to say is, you got to get some more positivity going, bro. That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get excited about D&D stuff, not just hate on it. There's enough of that on other channels. How many more questions are there? Only like 3. All right, we'll read them real fast. What is the Age of Umbra? What are some of the defining character groups or setting features that make it special? Setting features. Hopefully we get something mechanical. Age of Umbra is dark, deadly. See, Samael, I told you. It's deadly. They said it's deadly. Happen. Oh, okay, that might not seem like much, but I think the fact that keeping watch is a mechanic of the environment is actually really cool. It takes this, like, if they do it right, I think it can take the concept of, are you keeping watch? Which, honestly, is sort of more of a joke in a lot of groups of, like, who's keeping watch? Like, I don't know a lot of people who actually do it. I don't hear a lot of talk about it. It's sort of a hand-wavy thing. I do that a lot. I just sort of hand-wave it. Maybe you have some random dice rolls come up, but if you did a watch scene, every time your party did a long rest, you're having someone on watch, and you're figuring it out, and you're rolling for it, it can kind of just be, like, annoying. But if you were brought into this campaign with this idea of, like, it is a setting so dangerous you have to keep watch, and there's a mechanic to help us kind of do that quickly, that's cool. That reinforces the themes that they're trying to convey here of the darkness. All right, good answer, whoever this was. I can't remember. You're giving me something to really go off of. Ooh, more art, hell yeah. Matthew Mercer has likened the Age of Umbra to video games like Dark Souls. How far does that comparison bear out? Would you suggest that dedicated fans of video games like Elden Ring might want to consider it? The campaign frame is absolutely for fans of Elden Ring, Dark Souls, or really anyone who wants to run a dark and deadly story. Matt really outdid himself with this one. I don't know if I've said this yet, but I am so on board with the way that they're pitching this book to have multiple different campaign settings with all sorts of different tones or themes or genres. Like, that's really cool. That's really useful for DMs, I think. I'm excited to see more of them. So I'm guessing this is not Age of Umbra. Wow, this is like a unique art style. It's almost like a video game render. Like this guy who's got his axe kind of standing down next to the mule. Maybe it's harder for you to see, but the way I'm looking at it almost looks like a video game cutscene. Okay. That looks like it could be Age of Umbra. I mean, maybe this is Age of Umbra, but that doesn't look very dark, so I'm guessing not. That looks like it could be a settlement. Not quite as gothic as I would have maybe thought. I mean, which is silly. There's all these steeples and things, but it almost just looks like more like big medieval than gothic. That's okay. Definitely not Age of Umbra, for sure not. You're looking at like a. I don't know anything to even compare this to. It looks fun. Like, it looks like a cool setting you could run a. I don't know. Not my tone of a campaign in, but for I'm sure a lot of younger players, you could have a good time, or players who are more interested in like lighthearted role play. Go on, spend the whole night at the inn having a drinking game with the patrons could be cool. Okay, some sort of medieval city, lots of colorful banners. That's cool. Now that's very cool. Does that look like... Does this look like... Oh, no, there's a little... Well, is there a little frog dude in the... Hold on, I want to... So we've got some sort of knight in his chair. We've got a horned sorcerer caster. Oh, it's like a big time spell thing. That's cool. Oh, I wonder if this is showing... This is just a total guess, but I wonder if this is like showing like, oh, this is what life looked like before the Age of Umbra, and this is what life is like in the Age of Umbra. That's my guess for this piece of art. I'm trying to decide if these characters look like the same characters that are in the... oh, whoops. Let me go back down. The wings... No, those look like angelic wings. Right? On that lady. And I don't see anybody in a chair, and I don't see a frog person. So, different characters. So, maybe it's not Age of Umbra. But, cool art. What was the last one? Just some wilderness. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I don't know. This is an area of world building that I think DMs really enjoy. Thinking about, like, what types of normal animals live in the environment, and how do the people of the world like interact with them. It is important stuff, but I don't know if as a player if I would look at this piece of artwork and be like, whoa, wow, I have a really like. I don't know if mounts are things that get used very often. It kind of seems like a thing that gets forgotten about sometimes. Like, you have this giant mount, but you're going down into dungeons most of the time, and overland travel, we kind of just breeze through as quickly as we can. So, it's like a cool thought, but I've never been very successful in having a big mount or a living thing be something the players like really love, but maybe that's just my fault. Okay, 2 more little questions as part of this interview, and then I'll come back to y'all. Are there other campaign frames in Daggerheart? How do they change the experience of play? Is there one you'd highlight in a brief as an experience at the other end of the tonal spectrum from the Age of Umbra. Okay, cool. Yes, there are 6 campaign frames. Ooh, I would have liked more. In the Daggerheart core rulebook that have a wide range of genre and tone. They really form the subgenre of fantasy that you're looking to play in. From lore to mechanics to weapons and everything in between. I think on the other end of the spectrum from Age of Umbra, depending on what your spectrum is like, is either Beast Feast, which is the lighthearted dungeon crawl about cooking what you kill. Okay, there's a pop culture reference. Heavily inspired by Delicious in Dungeon and Monster Hunter World, or Motherboard, which is our sci-fi fantasy setting where all magic is technology, inspired Horizon Zero Dawn and Mortal Engine. Oh, there's even sci-fi in this. Okay. All the more reason that they're kind of hooking me into it. I'm digging this. Last question. When and how can players check out Daggerheart for themselves? The game launches on May 20th on the Critical Role shop and in your friendly local game store and can be found everywhere games are sold shortly after that. Well, folks, I think I'm sold. Multiple different little settings that have mechanical features to them in the book. There's a card system that helps with building your character that I think's cool. The Age of Umbra setting and the campaign is going to be something that I will definitely be watching and probably reporting back to you all with some streams to talk about. So, yeah, I'm digging it. I'm excited. I'm keeping my enthusiasm up. I don't want to be a hater about it. I want to be a spokesperson for it, I suppose. I want people to also be excited about it. Hopefully bring in some new blood for the cult. Marc says, I'd probably just pick it up at my LGS just so I can tear it apart and figure out if it's good or not to get inspiration from. Yeah, I've wondered like, is 5e... For a long time, I've heard the thought of like, just take what you like from other systems and put it into 5e. But I don't know if that's like as easy as it sounds. I don't know if 5e is like as much of the Swiss Army knife as it used to be treated like. And maybe, I don't know. I'm trying to think too of like, if I really like Daggerheart, all of my campaign groups I run and start playing are 5e. It's not like I'm gonna be like, hey guys, do you want to switch to Daggerheart? And I could certainly try running someone start playing, but I did take a little sneak peek. There was the page of like, here's all the start playing GMs who have adventures ready for people to sign up and play in. And I'll be honest, there were a lot of empty games. A lot that had like 0 out of 5, 0 out of 6 seats filled. Now it doesn't show me ones that are full. If there's a group that has all 5 or all 6 seats filled, then it's not on the list. So who knows? There could be a bunch that were filled. But I was like, doesn't seem like there's a lot of players out there so eager to get into a Daggerheart game that they're willing to like pay a GM on start playing for. So that was a little interesting to me and a little bit of like, oh, okay. What is the enthusiasm level? Speaking of which, why don't we jump into the Critical Role? Or no, there was there it is. The Daggerheart Reddit thread. I just figured we'd take a look and see what has been published. Very first one. The limited edition is unusable. It's too darn pretty. There's no way I'm risking this book or these cards at the table. No one told me the limited edition cards were going to come with gilt edges. That's not going to survive play. Frowny face. My plan for the moment, pack the limited edition away somewhere else. Okay, so it's one of the bait and switch titles. The limited edition is unusable because it's so good. I am also of a different opinion than this person. I like when my RPG stuff gets beaten to hell. I like when my books have dented corners and pages are a little ripped up and things have stains on them, because to me it A, means I use it a lot, so I'm getting value out of it, and B, it looks more like an old wizard's tome. Now, does that mean like it doesn't have resale value? But like, who's collecting RPG books for the resale value? Nobody, right? Like, we live in a capitalist hellscape where you can literally buy a new copy of a book every single day if you want it and have it in mint condition. Like, so yeah, if I could give you all a word of encouragement, it is beat the hell out of your RPG stuff. Use it. Don't suffer when it gets a little wear and tear. You get wear and tear on your body and you don't beat yourself up for it. You're not any less because you were telling a story and you're bearing the scars to prove it. So I think it's cool. Ooh, Age of Umbra. Does this have more than the one we were already shown? Nope, just the 2. Okay, darn. Anything interesting in here we want to poke at? I'm guessing it looks like the book got released early over in Germany, so they're having a look at it. Class reveal with Demiplane Darrington Press. What the heck is Demiplane? I got you covered. Oh, no, just talking about what Demiplane is. Okay, maybe nothing that interesting, unfortunately, on the thread to talk about. The most recent posts are... We're like 7 days back and nothing crazy. Okay. Well, at the very least, I wanted to show you what was in the Daggerheart order, right? So if you just do the normal Daggerheart core set, you get the book, you get cards. Can I zoom in on these more? Yeah, a little bit. Mending Touch. Okay, let's take a look. Mending Touch. You lay your hands upon a creature and channel healing magic to... I can't make it out. It's too pixely. Okay, but what do we think of that cover? And does anybody else feel like this tiefling with the horns and the green cloak and the blue tail is like an obvious Jester reference? Because I think it is, and I'm all for it. Jester is like easily my favorite. They are, if not my favorite, in my top 3 favorite like Critical Role characters that has ever been played. They're so... Oh my gosh. Laura Bailey was so funny with her. What do we think of the cover? Things that jump out to me. 1, there's no dragon. Or like an obviously fantasy-esque monster. You've got almost like a giant beetle looking. It's almost a dragon, but it also looks sort of like an insect. So that already is like an odd, not odd, well, kind of, that's the word that jumped to my mind, an odd vibe. It doesn't feel like a medieval setting, but it also doesn't feel like a sci-fi setting. It's sort of that somewhere in between, which I enjoy. It looks like even that clockwork mage down there has some sort of like cool techno staff, which is fun. The frog folk I could do without, but I won't harp on it too much. I guess they're just showing off some of the cool characters, I suppose. Whatever that dude is, like an alien orc with 3 eyes and big nasty jaw of teeth. That's cool looking. The wraith in the background with the collapsing building is interesting. Yeah, it's for as excited as I am about Daggerheart, I don't love the cover, especially that lady. Something about, yeah, I don't know. Something about the art just looks a little flat or a little like unfinished. But that's me being a loser. Now this art though, I wish I could zoom in closer. It gets really pixely. That book and that cover art is really cool. I'm 99% sure that art is by Dominic Mayer, who does a ton of art for Magic the Gathering. He has new art in the Dragons... Oh, what's it called? The new adventure book that Wizards is releasing all about dragons. He has some art in there. I think it's even like some of the cover art. I have some commissioned art from him in one of my first ever Kickstarter book, the Dragon's Garden and 47 Other Force Encounters. It's right there on my shelf. I commissioned him way back before he was ever working at Wizards of the Coast. So it's crazy now to be like, oh my god, this dude is like in-house working for Wizards of the Coast doing all sorts of art for them. Really cool. But anyways, the specialty box, you get this gorgeous box, alternate cover. You get a DM screen. These were like tearaway character sheets. That's like a fun thing to throw in a box. It's one that it's like, well, I could just print these off, so this is like gonna kind of use its utility after a while. But whatever, still cool. You've got your set of polyhedrals and your 2 D12s, one marked for hope, one for fear, I'm guessing. You've got, I'm guessing they come with the same amount of cards. I would be surprised if you get more in this box set. Maybe you get like extra sets so players can have duplicates, I don't know. But you get all these cool cards. And then it mentioned tokens, which I don't know how I feel about this. Their version of tokens is like little colored gems, which I like because it's a visual cue of like, you don't need miniatures. You don't even need pawns. You don't need anything more fancy than little colored plastic gems that can make it clear of like which character is which, and the reds are all the enemies. And you can move those around. And this yellow one, there's no other yellow on here. This is the like magical crystal you're fighting over at the center of the battlefield or whatever. I dig that. I think that's a cool message, if that's the message they're trying to send, of like, yeah, you don't need to buy $300 worth of miniatures. Let's just use some little colored things. I think it's cool. How much is it though? Oh, it doesn't say right here. Pre-order now. Oh, three-eyed Cyclops. Or that's not how that works. A three-eyed giant. Oh, dang, I have to like go through. Okay, well, I was curious if I could see the cost of it real fast, but looks like I can't. Okay. Let's see. Anyways, that was basically it. That's everything that I want to talk about today. We got there kind of abruptly there. I thought there'd be more on the Daggerheart forum that we could look at, but honestly, it's been 2 hours. Good Lord, I've been talking for 2 hours about Daggerheart and the hype for their new campaign, which again, I am hyped for. I think it's going to be cool, and I am excited about Daggerheart. I will definitely be picking it up when it drops tomorrow. Yeah. Anyways, in chat, anything I want to address before I bounce? Samael showing himself to the door. Yep. Corset is 60. Limited is 150. Yeah, well, I definitely won't be picking up the limited then. Corset is 60. That's still a lot for the book and cards. Whew. I think I've got some gift cards though, so. Dobin asked, are you going to do any more solo plays? Probably. Are you talking about, because I've done 2 different solo plays. I did one where it was sort of like when I was pushing my, the Doom Stronghold Kickstarter, and I did a little solo encounter playthrough of some heroes trying to claim this Arctic stronghold, and they fought some frost goblins, and it was really fun. It ended in the TPK, which was hilarious. Or no, it didn't. It ended in one character dying. They like jumped off of a cliff to hit a boat to kind of launch some of these characters up. It was a little goofy, it was a little Looney Tuny, but they flew him up onto the stronghold and they escaped, but he died. So I did that, and then I've done some streams where we do solo play, but it's more of like we're all the voice of the single character, so we're still playing together. Which are you talking about? Because honestly, I wouldn't mind doing both, a little bit of both in the future, but not sure. Noble Knight said, thank God, I was afraid it was going to be $300 for the limited edition or something stupid like that with all the new video games. Yeah, both were cool. It inspired me to make some easy solo play D&D. Oh, okay, you liked both? Yeah. The solo with chat is a little more interesting and I think engaging as a viewer than just me soloing it and you're sort of just watching and not part of the conversation in any way. So I don't know if I'll do that as often or like anytime soon, but we'll definitely do some chat plays, a solo session of D&D together. We'll do that real soon. Marc said, containing all the material found in the Daggerheart core set, plus unique accessories enhancements such as alternate cover art, a GM screen, a dice set tokens, and more. Limit 3 per customer. Oh, wow. Kevin, get yourself the core set, Father Doom. Looking forward to our Wednesday campaign. Oh, no way, man. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. Oh, dude, I appreciate that so much. Hell yeah. Oh my gosh, Kevin. Dude, I'm sorry. I think at the start of this campaign, I got you mixed up with a different character who died. I had I had your group that TPK'd and then a group that had a character death sort of around the same time. My bad, Kevin. You played red. You drowned in the river. You didn't blow up your soul engine. What am I doing? I'm getting my characters mixed up. But Kevin, you're the man, dude. You just guaranteed your character survives the next session. You will not be dying Wednesday night. Congrats. And I really appreciate that. I will absolutely use that to go snag Daggerheart. And then we can flip through it together on stream, probably. Take a look at it and see what's interesting about it. Build some characters together. I wonder if there's a way to solo it. It would be cool if Daggerheart included some solo rules. I doubt it. I don't think I've heard anything about that. So. But anyways, yeah, Kevin's character in our new Wednesday campaign that we just started up since they TPK'd before, he's playing a gnome artificer called Nibs, who has his, what's it called? It's not called a homunculus. The Steel Guardian? No, that's a different subclass. Whatever, he has like a little clockwork thing that works with him. It's a crab, and it like scuttles around him and it's like Krabby out of Pokemon. It's fun. And then the way he's described his character, he also has like smaller little crabs that will come out of him that help him like repair things, or like little nanobots. So he, like, Nibs the gnome is almost like this crustacean-y kind of dude where he has like these, they're almost like barnacles living on him. Or at least that's how I'm imagining it in my head. And they scuttle off him to help him. It was cool. Really fun character. So I'm excited to play with him again on Wednesday. Hey, Doman! Welcome to the membership. Welcome to the congregation. Not a bad stream. Hell yeah, we had some super chats come through. We had some people join with memberships. Christian dropped 50. Steve on Tuesday dropped 5. Kevin with the 60. You guys have been awesome. Doman and Edward, welcome to the congregation. Welcome to the Church of Doom members. I believe as a member, you might have to be a member for a month. So I can't say for certain. But I know at a certain point you can gift a membership. You have like a free membership that you can gift. So it doesn't cost you anything. And then it gifts it to somebody random who's like pretty active on the channel. And then they can get access to things through your gifted membership. So as we do this more and more, hopefully people start gifting those out. And we can kind of swell our ranks of the RPG cult who tune into the streams. But yeah, I just really am appreciative of all the support you guys give me whenever I jump on here on a stream. It makes the whole thing worth it. Especially when it ends up being 2 hours. 2 hours of the day, which goes towards this, which I enjoy it. I have fun doing it, and you guys just make sure it's financially feasible to keep doing. So I love that. Thanks, guys. Well, I think that's it. I think we'll call it there. We'll end on a good note with a super chat from Kevin and Doman joining our RPG cult, and I am excited to watch this first session 0 of the campaign, the Age of Umbra, and to talk about it with you all on an upcoming stream. That's going to be the plan, I think. We're going to watch this campaign and talk about it together and get people psyched about it. Samael can see the door. Yep, we've got our hater. Everybody's got every chat has someone who's a little bit of a hater, but that's okay. Samael's been a good vibe a lot of the time too, even if he's got some out-of-pocket thoughts on some character depictions. Anyways, like Kevin said, GG guys, on to the next one. We say these things in your unholy